Call the public safety meeting for the city of Hudson to order, 5 o'clock, Thursday, October 4th, 2018. Roll call, please.
Alderperson Alms.
Here.
Alderperson Hall.
Here.
Alderperson Morset.
Here. Discussion, possible action on minutes of September 13th, 2018.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. So we will go ahead, if you guys are okay with moving our discussion with the, where is it?
10.
Number 10, the informational items for only discussing, and we have some folks here that would like to also participate in it. But Bill, go ahead while you're bringing this up, and then I could certainly give some background on it.
Sure. A constituent of mine reached out to me about sex offenders and sort of what is that distance from schools, parks, playgrounds, and just was concerned by a couple of locations. Obviously, there are apps out there now that you can have on your phone that locates where these people are. So it really brings it into public purview. And so I really wanted to have a discussion about, because I had the same concern that it was very close. But as you and I talked about, you kind of have some background about why that is, because you were part of that, creating that ordinance, and
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I kind of want to hear what that background is, I guess, to start out with.
Anything quick, Joyce, or you just, yeah, okay. Well, the background started, I brought this up quite a few years back, maybe 4, 5, 6 years.
Longer than that.
Yeah, it's been,
10, 12.
oh, okay. I brought it in for discussion, and the premise of it was obviously to protect our children from anything. And at the time, the Department of Corrections was placing more of the sexual offenders within Hudson because we had no residence restrictions. Department of Corrections got more involved once I started looking for ways to protect children and protect our community from this. I brought it. We got I think from Franklin, Wisconsin, a copy of their ordinance. And through a lot of discussion, it started at 2,500 feet, I believe. It was basically to kind of exclude any placement of any sexual offender in the city of Hudson. Department of Corrections and whatnot didn't like that. And at the time, the council decided they needed to water the ordinance down, which in fact made it less safe in my mind at the time, to be very honest with you. So it ended up ending at what we have as far as restrictions from schools, parks, anywhere children congregate.
And a large reason for that is because of the Supreme Court case that basically puts you in the crosshairs for litigation if you have such a specific residency requirement, which basically limits too much where these people can live. So I think that is why it got watered down from the 2,500 feet to the 250 feet.
I guess people on the council got scared or were just not agreeing with it because they viewed they had rights too. I argued the fact that once they violated somebody else's rights, I think they lose them. That's an opinion. The law doesn't agree with that, obviously, but it was in an effort to, and I got a lot of pushback because we also were pushing then those placements outside the city limits, and those people didn't like it, including our state representatives, et cetera, et cetera. We still passed it. I don't want to bring this under a microscope right now, and I'll certainly allow Jeff and you guys to say your part, but if we put it under a microscope, it would be more or less challenged once again, because the state has now, correct me if I'm wrong, started reversing these, or what did they do?
The Department of Corrections in the state, the DOJ, is pushing to eliminate ordinances having any residence restriction at all. So I share your concern that if you start bringing this stuff up, it's going to call attention to it, and then we're going to lose the 250 feet we have. And another thing of point is that these are only for crimes against children. Not all sex offenders are created equal, right? So if you offend against another adult, you don't have these restrictions. It's only if you offended against a child.
In our ordinance, you mean?
Yes.
Okay, okay.
It is not for adult perpetrators,
Nope.
for a rape case or sexual
And
assault. of
there's
a-
different rules that follow that, and we can do different types of notifications if it's a violent offender or a multiple repeat offender that happens to get out and be placed in the city. Then it's up to my discretion whether or not I do a community notification. It could be a neighborhood notification, it could be an entire community notification. But that's based on what I think for the adult offenders.
The law is written where they need to be placed back in where they were originally from.
Okay,
It makes no sense, that including where if they perpetrated the crime, they would be placed back in that same.
gotcha. Can you walk me through, like, sort of what, if any, supervision these people have? I mean, are these people with, like, ankle bracelets? I have just no idea.
It depends.
Depends.
It depends if they're still on supervision, because some of these people might be lifelong registrants, which means they have to register for the rest of their life, but they might no longer be on supervision. We just had an individual that was convicted in 1994 of a crime in Minnesota against another adult. Served his time, he's no longer on probation, but he has to register for the rest of his life. So he moved into Hudson, and he still had to register that he was living in Hudson. There's no supervision, right? It's just so that we know where he is the reason for it.
Where are other communities on this? Near, does River Falls have something similar to this?
I think once we started here in the western part, it kind of trickled out to the other communities. Most of the bigger communities have an ordinance in place now.
Okay.
Yeah, New Richmond, River Falls, Race Lake,
And what is their distance? Do we know?
it's pretty similar.
They might have just taken a copy of ours like we did with Franklin and whatever distance I
It's
don't know
pretty
for
similar.
sure.
I had,
It's not 2,500.
back when I put this on the agenda a few months ago, I think I had attached Rice Lakes.
Got it.
But I don't think I attached that for this one, but I think they're pretty similar. It wouldn't be very difficult for me to get copies of them if you wanted them.
So what you're saying is going down the path of trying to bring forward an amendment to this ordinance is going to shine a light,
Could very well.
and what we have in place now
Could be
would just be
litigated.
wiped out completely.
Correct.
I don't know.
I mean, it's terrible, but the law is supposed to be blind, and it applies to everybody, the perpetrator and the victim. There's philosophies for both of that. I don't agree with it, but I agree with the world, land of law, you know?
Yeah, we don't have any choice but to adhere to it.
So thus far, our ordinance is in place and will stay in place until we have to do otherwise.
So I mean, I'll just ask the question, as citizens are bringing this up, right? Citizens here, what do you think their best course of action is? It to write the state, do you think? I don't know.
You're
mean-
still opening that can, and it wouldn't be necessarily the state, but the Department of Corrections, I would think. And you can certainly write the state legislatures.
That's what I mean. I mean,
They're the ones who are just watered down everybody's.
So what are you looking for?
all this is listed as is discussion point.
Yeah.
I'm looking at, you know, when I first heard that, without knowing the background, without knowing how we got there, I felt it was way too close for sex offenders to be that close to school, to a
Yes.
playground, right? Until you told me kind of what that history looked like. So, I don't know, I guess what I'm looking for is guidance to give our citizens about what they could do, right? Because looks like that we probably shouldn't approach this as a city.
Well, I'm not saying that's, if you guys are ready to go down that road, but
Just know it could be wiped out. I mean, here's the question, right? Is what we have in the ordinance now is pretty darn close, right? I mean, how much closer would it get? You know what I mean? I mean, is it worth throwing it out there?
that's something you have to make a decision with. I'd certainly love to hear. Jeff, did you want to speak to the, if you'd have to get up to the microphone and state your name and address for the record, please.
Jeffrey McCorkle, or 442 Overlook Pass, Township of Hudson. So, if the Department of Justice is going to have these guidelines that you can't have any of this, or do we have any say in what their program is they have before they even get out, or could we put a program into place if they want to live in our community, they have to complete our program? I mean, that may be another avenue of coming at them with that, since they're saying, well, you got to have them.
Yeah, and those laws their policies are set by the legislator.
Yeah, and there's certain programs that they have to follow and conform with through the Department of Corrections. And then they have to call us and make sure that they're, like if they want to move into the city of Hudson, for instance, I will get an email or a phone call from whoever their Department of Corrections supervisor is and say, this person is interested in living in this residence. And then I have to go to the map to see if it's within these geographical restrictions. And if it's not, then I can say, yes, they can live there. But if it is, like the last, 10 or 12 that I've had, it fell within the restricted areas, so they have to keep looking for other places to live. But they don't get that opportunity to get placed until they have completed certain programs through the Department of Corrections, if that makes sense.
Yeah, they're just, I don't know, having them within, 250 feet of a school, I mean, they could just cut through somebody's backyard and be there too, which
Yeah, I think
obviously
it's
that's a
actually
problem.
I think it's actually 200 feet. I think I
250.
misspoke.
Is it
Person shall
250
not
or-
reside within 200 feet of the real property comprising any of the following. And then it goes on to list any facility for children, public or private school, group home.
Because obviously they like to prey upon where there's, an easy abundance, they like to volunteer to be, the coaches or the community people. And
Yeah, and the
They prey upon 'em.
problem with it is you'd be surprised how many parks and daycare facilities and schools and things that we have.
or how many
in the
more we
city.
might need to add.
Well, like I said, the original motion or ordinance had 1,000 to 2,500 feet away from them, and it just got watered down by everybody.
I thought we put them all in Burkhart,
Kind of what happened.
so,
And outside in the town, well, which is in the township too, so.
yeah.
And again, just to reiterate, these are only against offenders that have offended against children that are required to do this. If somebody offends against an adult, they have no geographical restriction.
This ordinance you're talking about?
Yes.
I mean, there's still guidelines.
It's statewide. There's guidelines and there's
Right.
supervision and things like that, but they have no geographical restrictions as where they can live.
Some of the worst ones are monitored with ankle bracelets and whatnot. I know we had an issue come up with a gentleman that living across from Williams Park. He ended up appealing and he got to live there. I don't remember, do you remember what the whole thing?
I don't remember the specifics.
He was allowed to do so. So it's definitely within the restriction of the park, but he still ended up residing there.
Maybe we need to put like color codes on parks so they're, like the orange level or different stuff, maybe careful with this park or whatnot.
There's a map on our website with the ordinance of where
It's color coded and
where they
each
carry.
different type of facility is a different color and there's another color for restricted zones of residency and it's pretty elaborate.
It's unfortunate what happened in your situation, and I feel bad. And believe me, this committee, and certainly Bill, I know, has a passion like I had the passion and still do to protect our children and our community.
Yeah, and one of the reasons my wife and I have been so vocal and not, trying to hide or shame or any of that stuff is it's like we don't want other people to fall victim to something they could have been warned about, which I felt could have been the case for us as well. But some people, are cowards or who knows what the reasoning is. But, shame or this or that, it's like, no, I don't want anybody else to fall victim to it, and that's why they have such things, and that's why people are concerned. And unfortunately, it seems when you go through all these processes and courts and everything else, that everybody wants to protect the offender. The offender has more rights than anybody else, and, they've got all the excuses of why, and all they do is lie, and lie, but, they're more protected.
Right.
So.
Yep, and believe me, when we get notices, I like to know, and Jeff and I talk, and we'll monitor. We can do what we can, but without reopening this, if you guys wanted to or not, we could
There
certainly
was,
try. but-
wanting a second or a third chance, and the poor victims never even got a first chance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, That's all I've got.
It's a
for
tough,
now.
thanks, Jeff.
How was this listed? Was this discussion only, or was this
I
possible
purposely had
action?
discussion because I don't know,
So we wouldn't be able to take any
Not
kind of
tonight.
action?
not tonight. I mean, you can certainly the next meeting,
Okay.
if it's something.
Yeah, I would like to see it on the agenda, I think, for discussion and possible action on the next meeting,
Okay.
if you're okay with that.
I just caution you, that it may be the
Well-
demise of that, our ordinance as it is.
I understand that. I'm just thinking 200 feet is not that far. You know what I mean? Like, if there's no restriction at all, if we lost it, we lost it, but what
Something
we
is better
could
than nothing,
gain,
but- And like I said to you, I'd be the first one in Madison screaming at why they took it away if, God forbid, something happened to one of our children in the community.
Maybe a conversation with Kathy.
I was just gonna say, I mean, if we could get it on the agenda, we could always strike it, or I could, I mean, that's a month away anyway. I'll talk with Kathy and see.
That'd be a good starting point, because she was intimately involved in that entire
Right.
process.
Gotcha.
We put a lot of hours in there.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Randy.
Okay. Thank you. Ma'am, were you here for the same issue?
Yes.
Did you have any comments?
No, other than he lives right next door to me.
Okay.
Just wanted to come and find out if there was going to be a change, if there could be a change, but if definitely.
I believe the situation you're in is an adult offender.
Adult offender, adult victim. I think that's a
What's
difference maker as far as the state's concerned.
So the ordinance would not change his situation. And if we changed it, he would have been grandfathered in with this original ordinance if he was under this ordinance. He is not as an adult. It's unfortunate.
Well, at least I know.
Yeah.
That he's living there. I have 4 grandchildren. So I didn't know until I got a message, and then I took it upon myself to go around the neighborhood just to let people know that he was living there. Whether that's against the law.
No?
I don't know.
It's all, there's several different sites that you can go to, sex offender registry, and they don't keep it a secret. And that's why they require these folks to register, is so that everybody knows where they're at.
Jeff, did you know of his placement?
I don't.
Because as an adult, that's not the
They
same.
still have to register, and we still get notified that there's one moving into town, but he may have moved into town
Before you.
before
But
I was ever in charge.
the
of it.
neighborhood should have been notified then, right?
It depends. It depends about the offense. Not every offender generates a notification. And there's no way we'd be able to keep. We'd be doing a weekly notification in different neighborhoods.
Is there a law that says we couldn't put something on our books that says we need to notify if we know of the offenders moving?
There's something on the books that says it's the discretion of the chief of police whether to notify. I think that's as specific as they get.
Okay.
And then you can call certain committees together, other chiefs of police and members of the DOC community, that if you have questions about whether this should be a notification or not, you can bring them together, and then you can bounce ideas off of each
So
other.
we could, as a community, for our citizens, get a little tighter on communicating a placement.
Yeah, we could, absolutely.
And that's something we should probably look at.
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree with that.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Julie McCockrell, 442 Overlook Pass. I was just wondering if there can be since it's all public knowledge and it's all on these other websites, if Hudson itself could form like a link on their own page as to who we have in our town and where they're at. Like, you have that knowledge, if it's something that we can just pull up, like a sidebar on the website or whatever,
Link on the
sex
Hudson.
Yeah, we could
offender,
probably easily do a link to the registry. Problem is, you have to know the name of the person that you're looking for.
Well, and that's why I was saying, if you know who's, I don't know if you would be able to give that information of who's here in Hudson itself and be able to say, these are the people that are here in Hudson and this is where they are.
Yeah, I think
Just
that's
that-
all on the registry. If you go to the registry, I think there's a map, You can
Okay.
check a map of your area, and it gives a little pin drop of where sexual offenders are registered
Okay.
as to be living. And then I think, I don't know for sure, but I think if you hover over that or click on the little drop pin, it'll tell you the the name and the address of the person.
I believe that's
Okay.
correct.
And how accurate is that? How updated is
Well,
that?
as long as the people are registering accurately
Okay,
their current addresses, it's pretty accurate. It's, I don't know how often it's updated, but they have to register with the county, and then they have to let us know.
Okay.
And I don't know when that information gets updated onto the website.
So there's a few more things we can do to help for you folks to at least find and identify that.
Yeah.
So we'll put that
Absolutely.
on our next agenda as well, to look at the policy of communicating sex offender registries
great, thank you.
and notifications. Thank you. So moving on to, we all set with that?
Mhm.
Moving on to item 3, 6-month review of parking restrictions on Hanley Road between Namacoggin Street and Foxglove Way. How's it working?
I have heard of no issues
I always see one vehicle parked there.
in the no parking area.
There's always one of something parked there on any given Saturday morning,
Okay.
so.
Yeah, I haven't gotten any angry emails from the fella across the street or any phone calls.
So it seems to be working. So we should leave it.
Yeah, I would.
Should probably do a formal motion on that then, I would think.
Should we revisit it again at some point, or just leave it alone?
I think we should leave it alone if it comes
Until
back
somebody
up.
complains.
Yeah.
All right, I'll make the motion to continue with the restrictions on the north side of Hanley Road between Foxglove and Namacoggin Street.
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Number 4, 6-month review on the school bus loading at Willow River Elementary School. Chief?
Yeah, well, I've driven through there a couple times the past week and a half, knowing this was coming up, and it seems to be a lot better than what it was. Traffic flow is a lot smoother. It's much safer. All the buses can line up on that one block. It seems to be much better than it was before. So I would recommend leaving that one alone also.
Any neighbors' issues?
Anything from the school?
Nothing. I did reach out to the transportation director, but was unable to get in communication, so.
Great.
But from what I can see, it's a non-issue now.
Okay.
Much better.
Okay, I'll make the motion to continue the school bus loading zone on 4th Street for Willow River School.
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Number 5, I asked to have the discussion possible action on Carmichael Road corridor study put on this, so we could, I don't know if you guys got into that. I haven't got a copy yet.
No.
I haven't
But
either.
one thing that stuck out for me was that they were going to adjust the timing of the traffic lights. And I felt that it needed to come here to get on the official record that we want that done this right away. To get it a little smoother up there.
I've noticed timing changes. I don't know if you guys have
They might
noticed.
have done it already, or good or bad.
Good. Well, so on Carmichael at Crestview, it used to be that the left turn arrows going southbound and northbound would trigger at the same time. Now they have it, have the southbound go, and then the northbound, well, I guess you're turning west, right? Left turn lane, signal comes on near the end of it. So I drove that way and, from like Hanley down Carmichael, and I was able to hit that left turn lane fine, but I don't know.
Okay. I don't know what to say. I mean,
Yeah.
they've-
I just noticed the change. I was kind of
I know we
surprised
did
by it.
replace a light on there, a turn light.
Well, they replaced all the controllers as well,
Right.
just
Maybe.
like 2 weeks ago. So it's very possible that as soon
That
as
they
they
retimed it or
they
whatever.
did that, they retimed it.
So,
And I'm sure they'll retime it again after construction,
yeah.
once things are a little bit back to normal up there, but.
So maybe you can verify that something might have changed. I don't know if you want to talk to him or Mike in Public Works. verify that it actually did change up there.
Yeah, I think it's the state that controls those, so.
Yeah, it is, and then timing, whether we're gonna do that timing change, or at least get some kind of time frame for it. I
Was
just
there-
wanted on record that we fully support that. if we
Absolutely.
do, To get that done right away.
Was there a recommendation within the study of what the timing should be?
No,
Okay.
we haven't seen it quite yet. Maybe I'm jumping the gun, but I just wanna make sure we can get something.
Okay. I will
At least
reach
for our
out,
next
I'll
meeting.
reach out to the DOT and see if, what their plans are and what they've already done, if anything.
Okay. So I'll move that we, for the record, state that the Public Safety Committee feels very strongly about implementing timing changes on traffic lights on all of Carmichael.
Okay, I'll second that.
Any further discussion? You guys, as far as emergency vehicles don't have issues, right? You got the little button.
We respond up there far too many times in a day.
I know,
Can tell you
well,
that.
I know, especially Center and Carmichael, well, Hanley and
All of
Carmichael.
them.
Has that gotten better?
Hanley and Carmichael has been amazingly better.
Yeah,
Good,
agreed.
good.
Center, Crestview, the on-ramps, the off-ramps.
Well, we might be getting
Cooley.
somewhere.
It's still a work in progress.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Thank you. Okay, Mr. Chief, discussion possible action on Police Department 2019 budget. Mr. I want
Well, I don't know, discussion, possible action. I wanted to give you guys, I don't know if this is status quo or what I'm supposed to do or not,
is.
but, I just thought, because you're my committee, that I should give you a heads up on what my budget is going to look like, so that there's no shock and awe factor.
Well, you got
Because-
that.
Because I could see a little shock and awe factor with this document.
Yeah. We'll take, I don't know if we want to take action on it tonight, but we'll certainly, if you want some discussion points or not.
Well, the main points that I want to address are the personnel, right? And then the other additions to the individual line items that I'm asking for are kind of twofold. They are needs, but when you ask the need versus want, right, it's somewhere in the middle. Yes, we need it. Can we get by without it? We can, but we're not as good as we could be, especially with the training stuff. I looked back in the previous budgets, and our training budget hasn't increased for 8 years. I mean, I had $2,000 to train 5 detectives,
Yeah.
and the real problem with it is 80% of my budget is gone in just trying to get the person to training.
Has Devin given you a percentage
A percentage,
there to be within or up or down?
he just said, put in what you think you need, and
Oh, right. You ask for everything and you get what you
Right.
get.
the other part is there's some things in there that I think would really make us work more efficiently, like the phone upgrades to be on FirstNet, like EMS is, like the fire department's going to be. It gives us that interoperability. Safety equipment. You have a radar that breaks and then it's out of the car because you got to keep sending it in. Well, if we can replace those on a more generalized schedule, so that we don't have 15-year-old radars in our car.
You should get all your capital, all that kind of stuff on a regular schedule.
Yeah. So that's kind
Stagger
of,
it.
things inherently break. We use them a lot. They get rattled around, right? I mean, our guys are driving around in a squad car as their office. They get banged around, they get bounced around, things break, things need to get replaced.
And hands down, your radios should have been, those should have never been bought, and you're right on asking for the, we had that conversation.
You're going back to capital with the rate, yeah. And it was a frustrating thing, and it's not my intention to throw anybody under the bus, but I was here when we tested those radios, and they didn't work. I know that's going to be a real frustrating thing, because that was just like 2 years ago. But on the other hand, at $25,000 to buy 38 radios, it's $620 a piece. If we switch radios, trade in $400 a piece, and that's pretty good payback.
Well, in your narrative, you use safety as an example, and you should continue on that route, because people are more likely to give you a yes on, error on safety.
And it is. And
Especially, if you can't communicate in a building, or,
And we've been, in our own building, an officer's got to go stand by the window
Yeah,
So
that's
it's
ridiculous.
frustrating, and if you're dealing with somebody, it's kind of hard to, hold on 1 second, I got to run on top of the hill and
Mm-hmm.
get a hold of my partner. So it's a huge safety factor.
And the one thing I didn't see, back to your personnel, the parking thing coming up, you did not include that in
I
anything.
didn't, I thought those were separate budgets, and I was waiting for the parking committee
That's coming,
meeting
yeah.
on the 11th. I thought we would probably talk about that. I assumed they didn't give me the request for a budget for that because that was all going to be worked out in the initial
Right,
rollout.
right,
So that's why I didn't ask for
okay.
it. But I do want to touch on the CSOs, the extra $10,000 from my part-time budget. I think my narrative explained it pretty good. But in the last 3 years, our part-timers have been pretty well non-existent. And it's not that I want to just eliminate everything that type of program has to offer. I just think we can reutilize those resources as CSO officers, people aspiring to become police officers, people in our community who might be retired looking for a part-time job. And they can handle so many things to allow our officers the time
How many years has it been,
properly
20?
address.
Is that what you have banked, or is it use it or lose it? 20,000?
It has been 20,000. I think it was decreased in the budget cut years back in, was it 13, 14, 12 maybe even? It was rolled back. It was around 32,000 and it was rolled back to 20.
Okay, so it's still 20, it's 20.
It's 20 right now,
And you're
yeah,
asking for how much more?
10 to go to 30
And that was part-time or full-time? I don't recall.
part-time
Okay, so no benefits.
benefits. 3 or 4, probably 4 part-time CSOs and then a vehicle in there too.
Okay.
Well, that would be a good opportunity for a criminal justice student to get some experience and.
Well, and it's great for the
department
community.
To see that too.
To do the
but
outreach.
Besides
and-
the benefits to the community, though.
Right, and I don't know if you remember when we had the CSO medics back in the day, that was,
That was a while.
that 2008, 2009-ish? Again, before the market tanked.
Right,
But, that was just a tremendous resource to be able to get to the businesses and get updated key holders and key holder information and manager contacts and things like that, just so that when it's 3 o'clock in the morning and something happens at a business, we know who to call
yeah, I agree.
instead of doing a phone tree. There's just the benefits of a CSO program are, I can't even explain it all right here. They're just
The
so-
numbers will have to work. I mean, let's be realistically.
I understand, and I'm by no means saying that I expect to get everything I'm asking for.
That's good.
At minimum, I would like to form some kind of a plan because these are needs for the department, for which would allow me to be able to run the department more efficiently and more successfully.
Okay.
So,
Do you guys
That's
have
kinda
any other
my
quick questions for
2
him?
cents.
Do you have a priority if we did have to?
Personnel would be the priority, and equipment would be the second priority.
Yeah.
And training is the top priority of mine. Those 3 things are way up there.
Way up there. Okay.
Sir, were you here for a particular issue?
There was a particular, actually, I was really interested in this, and then the next one was the compliance for, I had someone post on the parent website about sexual, whatever, registration.
Yeah, we actually took that because there are folks here. We took that early already.
Okay.
So we have decided to look at the policy, but at this time, no action was taken on it.
Okay. And I did have a question in regards to when you're making the request. Is this okay that I?
Yeah, go ahead and state your name and your address for the record. You can certainly ask a question.
My name's Luke Caruso. I'm at 560 Stagecoach Trail. Just moved here at the end of July. As far as if the funding you're asking, if it doesn't become available, as far as the CSO program, and you're looking for the part-time, and you had made mention, someone had made mention of people in college that are looking for law enforcement careers. Is there anything that can offer as far as an internship program where it would be a non-paid internship with the CSO program, or make 2 positions non-paid or 2 that are paid, or something for graduates or people that are still in their undergrad that have gotten the training? Because a lot of it's where you don't have to pay for the first aid, first responder, where they take that collegiately, and I think in the second or third year where you won't have to pay for any of this, where they can jump on with that first responder, which I don't know exactly what that costs. It's between $600 and $800 for the certification and the classes. If it's through those credits for the community college or anything by there, if you could take that into cost, maybe you offer that an unpaid internship. I know when I was in skills, it was awesome if you could get an internship anywhere. And so it was just these things that became available and it could be unpaid. I mean, that's the option if the money isn't there. Like I said, just another option out there.
Yeah, we do currently have unpaid internships at our department.
Okay.
So to add more interns is what you're suggesting?
If it's possible. I mean, if the training's already there, if you can save money on training because they're in whatever year they are for law enforcement, they've had their skills training, but are going back to finish up other credits prior to. I know in Minnesota they had the post. I don't know what Wisconsin has as far as track 1, track 2, whatever.
Yeah, it's just basic recruit.
Okay, so
720 hours, same type of thing as skills.
same deal. Okay. Yeah, I didn't know. I just don't know if that was an option that had been exercised or not.
It is in a way. Our Police and Fire Commission just changed their policy on what's required to apply for us. So now you don't even have to have the recruit academy completed. And if you happen to be the best candidate and we have to send you through school, that's another reason I'm asking for money and training, because we may have to pay for someone to go through school at some point.
Mm-hmm.
But that may be an option at some point here too, coming up.
Okay.
And if you had any more questions, I encourage you to get a hold of Jeff in his office. And
I wasn't even on the
sounds
plan.
like you have some experiences.
I spent 6 years in Hennepin County and working for the sheriff's office out there, and a lot of the recruitment, a lot of their stuff came through their, what's it called? What do they call it? The kids that do it? Explorers
Explorer
program,
post.
which a lot of it came through that, and it was interesting to watch.
I
and
believe
talk
we
to
are hiring right now.
We are.
So there, if you want to fill.
Yeah, I like my career now is a whole lot less stressful, and I like to keep it that way. So I just bug the people that do this. So, but I do appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you, but we will be discussing that at our next meeting as well, the sexual restriction.
Is this a bi-weekly?
It is monthly, so first Thursday and Monday,
Thursday and Monday.
end of the month.
And then we'll be talking about that topic. Okay, appreciate you all taking the time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I keep this?
Yep. Any other questions for Jeff?
No, we had discussed this before.
Okay, so number 7, discussion possible action on compliance SOP.
So this event came up about a month ago.
Let me ask real quick, do we not have an SOP?
We didn't. We are trying to get one now.
Okay.
So it passed Public Works, and now it's coming here, and then it should go to consent,
Okay.
hopefully. So we did not have a standard operating procedure with what we had. We were just kind of, when the previous inspector, Dave Krupich, left, part of what happened was a full-time fire chief, and then compliance is going to the police department, and we're doing everything that Mr. Krupich did. So the letters we were using were way out of date. They weren't very informative. The procedure in which we were following we didn't believe in the best interest of the community. So we met Mike Mraz and I and Deb Andrews and Sarah Atkins-Hoggett to develop an SOP, which now outlines the procedure, because people were filing a complaint with Public Works that was a law enforcement issue. So then they would forward it to us, and then it might be a building inspector issue. So then we would forward it to Dave Gray, right? So now all compliance complaints come to us, and if it's not a law enforcement issue, it's directed to the appropriate, whether it's Public Works issue, a sidewalk issue, whether it's a building inspector issue, whether it's a fire inspector issue. We'll send it that way.
Okay.
The other big change was the letter that was drafted to explain to people exactly what is out of compliance, and explain to them how to get their property into compliance and what steps to follow. Because what oftentimes happens is we'll get a complaint, but it's someone who lives in Arizona who owns the property here, and it's a rental. The letter goes to them in Arizona. Sometimes they say, whatever, it's not worth it to me to send someone to mow my lawn. So we send them a citation, and we send a work order to Public Works to go mow the lawn, and then it's billed to their taxes.
Yep.
So what we were finding was most of that was no big deal, but the people that actually wanted to bring their property into compliance didn't have the means or didn't have access to find out exactly what needed to be done. And instead of call, they just would do their best what they thought, and then upon reinspection, figure out, whoops, I got a ticket, I guess I didn't do very good. So to try and better work with the community to help them get their properties to compliance, we felt that the SOP and this new letter should help. So that was kind of where it came from.
Does that include going to banks that have foreclosed homes that are in disrepair or issues?
If it is, but oftentimes, as we know, when it's in foreclosure, it can be in foreclosure for several months, and it's not owned by the bank. It's still technically owned by the property owner, but the property owner may not be living there, and we don't have a forwarding address, so it's pretty
But
difficult.
if we do work or whatnot, we can
Yes.
still bill the tax parcel.
Yes. Yes.
So if safety issues, i.e. pools, should be taken care of because it's a safety issue,
Yes.
and we shouldn't be so concerned about liability.
Well, there is a certain amount of liability because, you could, if you damage something like a pool, and then they come back and say, hey, they ruined my pool, now the city's going to be on the hook to buy them a new pool. So we still have to be a little bit cognizant of not destroying people's property, but at the same time, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
But we had to kind of play the game in that situation a little
So
bit.
everybody is on board with the way the SOP is written now, as far as, and
Yes.
Public Works has passed it.
Yes.
Any questions for them?
No, I saw this kind of a thing in action because one of my constituents called because her neighbor had a rental property and they had planted some bamboo or something along that line, and it was spreading onto their property. And so she called me to find out what to do, and so.
Bamboo grows in this climate?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it's.
And if you chop it down, you cut it, right? You mow it, chop it down, and then mow it like grass. It doesn't do any good because then it just spreads like
Sprouts
creeping
out.
Charlie and sprouts all over the place.
It was a mess. So anyway, she was glad to have that, know that the police department was going to be following up on it.
Yeah.
So
And there-
yeah, I
there are
think that there's a
specific-
need for this.
Yeah, and there are specific ordinances that outline the procedure as well.
Yeah.
So we just wanted to be out in front of it and have that open line of communication with the community so that we didn't run into any issues that we had a month ago.
Sounds good to me.
Is there any way I could get a copy, and then is there appeals process?
Yes. Yes.
And then
I'm trying to picture the entire code, but yes, there is an appeals process.
Yeah, no, if I get a copy. Just one other thing, though, is with talking about foreclosures, the one thing you can go after, but the HUD homes, any federal homes and federal businesses, you can't usually recoup their money. If they choose to pay you, you can, but they don't have to.
Even if you put it on a tax parcel.
Wow.
It's like the post office. If they own the building, they can choose to follow our rules, but they don't have to. It's a federal thing. It's.
Okay.
But anyway, so, and they're usually pretty good about on like the post office and out there. They're always really good about it. But the HUD stuff can get a little dicier, and unfortunately, I don't think we have a ton of that here. But
You have your SOP done?
I'm waiting to see that.
That's been a long talk.
Well, no, that's why I say I'm really happy to look at it, and some of the stuff is, and I'm not sure what you're using for software or if you have that, but that's something maybe we could look at and share.
Software.
Well, part of it, I mean.
Here, that's the software.
It's an Excel spreadsheet. Right?
Well, I don't want to belittle it. I'm not sure if Jeff was there, but Mike Johnson, myself, a few of the departments, and my prior, had some pretty healthy discussion on our feel of the compliance, and it's something nobody wants to do, but you really have to decide what you want to do and how you want to, it's, when you're strictly reactive, that's what it is.
I'll tell you, way back when I started this, the mayor was the compliance guy, and when he told you to get something done, it got done.
But I mean, it's, again, then the process, it's a very complicated process, I think, as Jeff's finding out, and it's good that we're starting with this, and I'm guessing we'll probably continue to, as you find the cracks in it when people start, but I'm all for, you know, doing more compliance. I think it's good for a healthy city to, you know, fix the stuff and make sure we're proactive instead of reactive. Unfortunately, it takes time and resources to do it, but I think it's a good step in the right direction.
What's your pleasure?
We need a motion on this?
Move to approve it and move it on?
Yeah, I'll move to approve.
Second?
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, motion carries. Thanks, Jeff. Number 8, discussion possible action on speed limit signs on Mount Croy Drive.
There are 0 speed limit signs up there.
Well, let's put them up. It's pretty easy, I would think, if there's none up there.
There's none up there.
Okay,
What is the speed
Either
limit there?
direction. It would be
25?
25, be
Okay.
residential.
Mm-hmm. So is there a problem with speeding there?
Yeah, there has been lately. It's slowed down a little bit from what residents have said.
Okay, so, how many speed limit signs do you want and where?
Well, one each way? 2?
Are you just talking Montcroy, or are you talking, what's that, Riverview Drive? Is that one up there?
River Ridge.
River Ridge?
Maybe 4 of them then, maybe. There should
Makes
be 2
sense.
on there, yeah.
Makes
200
sense. I mean,
River-
like we discussed with the other speed limit issues, I mean, there are fixed limits, right? So if it's residential, it's 25, but it's always nice to put a sign up so that people know.
Yeah, so we should put 1 each way on River Ridge and, or, yeah, 1 each way, so 4 altogether. So I would make that motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Number 9, EMS, Fire Department, Police updates. Josh, and I think, Bill, did you want to discuss with Josh what we talked about earlier? No? Just clarify your position? No? Never mind.
Oh, are you talking about Monday's
Yeah.
conversation?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, Josh, you and I met the day after. One thing that I did not clarify in that meeting was that the motion that I made is an exploration only. It is not a decision.
That's important.
And I just wanted to clarify that. And I think I sent out a note. I don't know if did that get to the crew?
It did.
It did?
Sent out
Okay.
yesterday morning.
Yeah, because I sent it late on Tuesday. You probably didn't get it until then. And then I also do want to sit down with the core group down there.
I just want to make sure, Bill, that you had your chance for the
Yeah,
record for the
thanks.
public. Any updates?
Just trying to figure out budget, trying to get that finished up.
Good. Everybody hanging in there?
Yeah.
Well, like I've said before, this committee backs you in the EMS.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Budget, we had sent our stuff to the city administrator a week ago, and I guess he didn't forward it, so we forwarded it to you. The advisory board approved what will be in front of you. Pretty basic. We're at 2% in operations.
Yours wasn't as greedy as his, but
Yeah, and actually, I think last year our operations was down about 4 or 5%, so we're still, you know, kind of, but it's just basically replacing things. You'll see everything's in there. If you have any questions at all, feel free to ask. So that's kind of the budget.
in your defense, Jeff, though, he's getting a new building.
I'll talk about that in my,
Oh, wow.
That doesn't have a beautiful view of the river like some offices, but anyway. So any questions on the budget, feel free to call or email or whatever. Bill and I went over it quite a bit, so he has a pretty good understanding, I think, of it also. I-94, I think everyone's kind of realized last Thursday we had a big accident. Coming from that, a couple things. We have some claims. We lost some hose, some equipment, so we'll be putting a claim against the insurance company for that and see how that works out. Also, I had met with Steve Takash on some other things, and every month, I think I tell you, all 3 of us chiefs say it's just a nightmare, along with a lot of other. And he did talk to someone from the project, and they're going to add some chevrons, some more signage. We'll see. Hopefully it helps, but we, continue to say just be safe out there.
Slow down.
well, they're also, I think, going to put an advisory speed decrease to 50 miles an hour, but it's advisory.
So, but it's
It's better than nothing.
nothing.
Like close to finishing a date?
I think they're talking the end of November for a completion date. So
Hopefully
that was
snow
our
isn't flying.
concern, is the snow starts to fly and
Right.
and that's a real problem.
Worse.
So yeah, that's kind of the big thing. I know we keep talking about it, but it's not getting any better. So hopefully this will maybe make a little bit of a change. I'll be attending the Minnesota Chiefs Conference next week for a couple days. Our ladder truck will be on display there. I'm actually there representing the Wisconsin Chiefs Association on the executive board, so that'll be interesting to see and hopefully get some classes and get something out of
Is
that.
our truck done and it's be on display, you say?
Yeah, it'll be there, and then after that's done there, they'll bring it back to put loose equipment and stuff on. And then we should be getting it, I'm thinking somewhere around the 1st of November, it should be completed. So we went up today to do kind of one of the finals, and seems to be looking good.
And our stuff is on the truck in that display?
Yes.
As in Hudson Fire?
Yeah, and we'll get some pictures out once it's, yep. So, yeah, so it's kind of nice little kind of recognition too. Tourism, if you want, if the tourism wants to put something on there, come see Hudson or something, we can, plus it is kind of nice to have it in the Minnesota show in the Twin Cities.
So when you take ownership of that one goes?
Yeah, so we'll be putting that one up for auction probably next week.
Oh, so do they take it or will we keep it?
We are putting it up for auction because we had that blip in it with the ladder issue, so at the time with the contract, we had to take it out, so we're gonna put it up for public auction.
Okay.
So, the good thing is they didn't inflate the trade-in, so we didn't get hurt on that. We should be able to get what they were gonna give us for trade-in. So, which is nice. Open house Monday, 5 to 8. Just trying something new. Hopefully everyone can stop by. Kind of more just to come down, walk through, talk to the firefighters, look at the show. I mean, we do, in the past we did the pancake breakfast, which is really nice, but we really don't get a big chance to talk about fire prevention, talk to the firefighters, look at the equipment as much. So we're just going to try that out this year and see how it goes. And it is Fire Prevention Week, so if you have time, stop by. That's about it.
That it?
Jeff?
Patch committee came up with our patch, our redesign, kind of the changing of the image of the Hudson Police Department, so to speak. So I'll pass that around so you guys can look at it. The remodel is underway.
Who'd you pick to do it?
Well, it was St. Croix Remodeling was the contractor, and they did some of the carpenter work in removing the wall. The quote for carpet was a bit high, so to stay within my budget of $24,000 that you authorized, I had to go with a different vendor. So carpet will be coming in on Monday.
You doing the whole office or just?
Just the squad room and the sergeant's offices.
Okay.
So we knocked that wall in between the sergeant's offices out to make it one big room. I couldn't find a painting contractor that wanted to do the job, so myself and the intern have been painting the last couple of days. Sometimes, to stay within budget, you got to roll your sleeves up and just do the work yourself. So that's coming along. That should be completed for the most part Tuesday next week. My committee for the mission statement and core values has completed their work on that, so that stuff will be coming out soon.
Okay.
We have a staff meeting next week so that I can roll that out to the supervisors to then roll out to the staff, so I'm going to wait until they've been notified of it, and then we'll make a big public display of it. I think the community members and the officers and staff that I had working on that committee did a really good job. I'm really happy with the final product.
Nice.
So that stuff is going to be pasted all over the police department too. Part of that out of this budget. So
How many cars you got left to switch
I
over?
think there are 8, and I was going to put that on November's agenda, or I can talk about that, or future agenda items would be to try and get, because obviously I have substantial savings in this budget year. I don't want to take 5 years to get all our cars looking the same, so I'd like to use some of that budget savings to just get all the cars with the new graphics at the end of the year.
How much a car? I don't remember.
I think it's $700 a car.
Okay,
So it'll be in the neighborhood of $6,800 or $7,000
good.
to change it out. We are currently 5 patrol officers short.
5.
Out of our, it's about a third of our patrol staff. So overtime budget's taken a significant hit.
What happened, 5? Why are we 5?
We have one out with a broken foot. We have one on leave for a baby. We have one in FTO, so he doesn't count until the end of December. We have one open position that we're unable to fill, and then we have one that is currently on leave, a personnel issue.
Anything in?
Does not look like
Do you
he'll
have
be
anybody in
returning.
psych training or ready to, off the list?
We exhausted our previous list, so that's why we're hiring right now.
Okay.
Applications are due next Friday, so if you'd like to work for the Hudson Police Department, fill out an application.
Bill?
Anyone? Anyone? So we will have, at least 2 openings after the first of the year, and, hopefully 3.
Yeah, hopefully we can get those filled. We want to get those filled.
Yeah, so it's causing a strain. The guys are doing guys and girls are doing a really good job. They're putting in a lot of extra hours, and
Tell them we'll do what we can. Back you guys up.
they know.
Oh.
That's it.
All right, any other items for the future agendas? Joyce, Bill, any announcements? You said yours.
Move to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor of adjourn?
Aye.
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 All opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.